percuma. It's good to be back. I was on a crazy 5-city tour: Vegas, D.C., New York, New Jersey, Miami. I'm traveling, man. I went all across the country, and I have great stuff to report back to you guys. Now, some of this is going to be in very public announcements that are coming soon. I went and collected some good news for you folks. So, and some of it I'll discuss in the post games for the members because they're just fun little side stories. Including today, I will discuss what happened when I ran into Will Smith. You remember we had a beef because of what we'd said about Jaden and Willow Smith? Oh, did we come to fisticuffs? TYTnetwork.com/join. That's in the postgame today. All right, but this is announcement week on the Young Turks. So tomorrow we have a very exciting announcement regarding the Justice Democrats. You will be pumped over it. I think you will love it. Okay. On next Monday, we have an important, awesome announcement for you guys about the Young Turks and what we're up to. But, okay, those are all wonderful. But the announcement you cannot miss is on Wednesday. Wednesday, top of the show. Okay, you got to have fun. Let me give you a clue. Because this is the one you got to tell your friends, family, and neighbors and Randy Gonzalez about. You cannot miss the top of Wednesday's show. Okay, 6 p.m. Eastern. Be a share bear, okay? Since we've been doing this format of doing 2 hours and, just going through the news, we don't do guests on the main show, right? It's just not what we do. It's not like cable news where they have nonstop guests. And we used to have guests on an older version of the show, but we haven't done that in years and years and years and years. The only guest we've ever had on live during the quote-unquote main show is Bernie Sanders. That's the only other person, okay? On Wednesday, we will have another guest live for, I think, equally dramatic reasons sounds a bit much, right? We had Bernie on in the heat of the campaign, but maybe not a bit much. What is it? What is it? It's going to be awesome. Okay. And it will probably start a war. Okay, so, fun for everybody. Not a literal one in the world. We're not attacking North Korea. Kim Jong-un will not be in the studio. Okay, so that's the fun and exciting stuff coming up throughout the week. Exciting stuff coming up in this show is Ted Cruz humiliates himself again. God, I love when that happens. Okay, so that'll be a little bit later. And more clownish Trump moves, of course. That's also a little bit later in the program. And in the second hour, people yelling at Muslims again. Jesus Christ, Lord mercy. Okay, anyway. Then can cops in Alaska have sex with hookers and get away with it? That's an interesting story. I was going to say fun. I guess depends on your perspective. Anyway, but there's a story so disturbing about fraternities in the second hour that I might have to ban fraternities. I'm sorry, but it wasn't me. Okay, they made me do it. So you'll see. So as usual on the Young Turks, a lot of light stuff, a lot of serious stuff. So let's get going on the first thing, which is actually about you guys. I just want to conclude here our Watchdog journalism program, and you guys were bananas. You were bonkers. You were amazing. In fact, I have an announcement. Okay, now look. You already know it. We crossed 2 million. You guys are unbelievable. I wanted to thank some people about it in a second, but we've hired 12 people already. We're actually going to hire the 13th one because we crossed 2 million. And the 12th person we hired was another reporter, Naomi LaChance. She worked at The Intercept, NPR, etc. And she's already breaking stories. I love it. And the new hire will be announced soon as well, the last one after having crossed $2 million threshold. But when I was away, I didn't get to read all the names of the people who had donated. I'm just going to do some of the larger donors here. Now, everybody's a small donor compared to what happens in the political world. But I wanted to thank Howard from LA, Eric from North Carolina, William from New Mexico, Sean from California, Nicholas from Texas, John from Kentucky, Deborah from New York, DJ from California. I'll get to Deborah and DJ again in a second because they're amazing and they got to name some of the stuff here in the studio and in the offices overall, and that's super cool and fun. Nicholas from New Jersey, Marija from Ontario. Yeah, Ontario. Okay. Nicholas from Ontario. Oh, Nick, you're awesome. Okay. Roy from New Jersey. Brian from California. Brian, I know you too. You're awesome as well. All of you are awesome. These are amazing guys. Thomas from South Charleston. Kevin from Keene. Savannah from Grover Beach. Savannah, I've got more on in a second as well. Joe from Sugarloaf Key, Florida. Never heard of Sugarloaf Key, but I got to check that out. I was just in Florida. Craig in Newport. Glenn in Blacksburg, Virginia. By the way, Newport, West Virginia. That's where Craig's from. Love West Virginia. There's going to be a lot of news about West Virginia soon. Philip from Minnesota and Christopher from Illinois. Okay, now, on to the guys that I promised you, okay? We already had Savannah Cooper who had bought Jordan's camera. That's the Savannah that I was referring to earlier. Her name is Savannah Cooper. We the People. Savannah did it again. There you go. Damn, you did it again, Savannah. So she named the control room. Jesus. From now on, that is the Synapse control room donated by Savannah Cooper. Okay? So that's it. From now on, we go to the Synapse. Okay? So that's where, of course, the art director is. And then we had Adam Westbrook, who had named the desk the Triptych Desk, and that's what that is from now on. Stephen Garcia had gotten camera A, which is the main camera in the studio that takes a wide shot. Stephen Garcia also got Nomi's camera. Jacaris Stephen Garcia was his name. Now we have the Handler family, who has chipped in from Deborah Handler, and the conference room that we all meet in downstairs, now the Handler family conference room. I love a show by the people, for the people, of the people. Okay, you guys made this happen. So every time those reporters break stories, that was you. Congratulations, and did a fantastic job with it. And here, your names are all over. We still have the names. By the way, nobody bought my chair. So Nicholas Weil, who endowed the chair now 4 years ago when we built the studio. Hey, Nick, it's still your chair, buddy. I love it. So Nick's name will stay on here. But Jeffrey Manzel has bought or endowed Anna's chair now. So both chairs are now endowed. Jeffrey, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now camera D in the studio is DJ Sizzle for DJ Padilla. So, all right, this is what a show from the people looks like, man. Ain't nobody naming cameras at CNN. And since you guys financed all that, we have that special connection to you guys. We love you guys. You guys are the Young Turks, and you are way, way too strong, as I always tell you guys, and you always prove me right on that. So thank you for being part of the Young Turks and making all of this possible. Okay, now you're going to miss the you're going to miss the things, you're going to miss the names, you're going to miss the can I see, and then 4 years from now you're going to be like, come on, do another one. Okay, all right, now let's do some of the news from today. Okay, so we had elections in France, and we were told that the right wing, Le Pen, might win. And so everybody was a little bit worried, especially given what happened with Brexit and Donald Trump here in the U.S. Well, that didn't happen. Instead, Macron won. He is more of a left-wing / centrist candidate, and he's only 39 years old. So here's the amazing part of the story. It is that it is the first time a non-establishment party has won in France. Now, that is a familiar theme. Now, you'll hear me say throughout this story, I told you, okay? So, because my main point had been, look, guys, people don't want the establishment anymore. We've had 4 to 5 decades of their rule, and people are not believing their lies anymore. They told us that we would all have increasing wages and that multinational corporations had our best interests in mind and big business was here to help you, right? And now we found out that that just isn't the case. So whether it's Greece or UK or France or America, or almost anywhere in the world, everybody's voting in Philippines, right or wrong, voting for outsiders. We don't want the establishment. How clear can we possibly be? Now, Marcon is not some sort of, revolutionary in that sense, but he started a new party. He has never run for office before, and he's the president of France. Isn't that amazing? And that's, in the old days, that would have never happened. But I'm telling you that the revolt has begun, and so this is definitely part of that. So let me give you some of the details of what happened here. Macron is a former member of the Socialist Party who served as economy minister for just 2 years under President François Hollande and was a banker for Rothschild and Company prior to entering politics. Before the presidential election, he had never run for elected office. Amazing. So in Europe and America, for a person like that to win was largely inconceivable in the past, now has become commonplace. Now, again, not exactly a Bernie Sanders-style revolutionary here. The guy worked in the financial industry. Television seemed to favor him in France, giving you some idea that the establishment is not overly angry that Macron has won. Obama endorsed him. So it's not like he's got no connections to the establishment, but it is a brand new party, and definitely not one of the parties that has traditionally won in France. So it's the voters saying, in a sense, okay, had enough of those guys, let's try something new, almost anything new. Now, he's a little bit more centrist, so that brings up a second issue that's very interesting, so let's give you more details. Despite Macron's lack of experience, his newly founded political movement, En Marche, or Onward, rapidly gained supporters. He took a radical message of criticizing France's political class as ineffectual and corrupt, but applied it to a restrained centrist platform based mostly on moderate economic reforms. Now, I think that this goes to a second told you. Not just that people want outsiders, but it isn't about right-wing, left-wing. In this case, it was centrist. So now, what did I say during the presidential elections? That if you only give them one populist choice, the American people will take it. So the Democrats gave them an establishment choice, and the right wing gave them a populist choice, Donald Trump. I mean, it's a false populism, of course we know that, but it was an outsider, someone who hadn't been involved in politics, and so they chose it. If you'd given them one on the left, it was far more popular, and very likely would have won, and now Bernie Sanders, of course, is the most popular politician in the country. His ratings nearly double President Trump and Hillary Clinton. So if you don't give them an outsider opportunity, on your side, they'll vote for the other side, or they'll vote in the middle. And basically, France is saying anyone that isn't part of the corrupt establishment. And so, and even for the left here, and I'm a progressive, but it doesn't mean that you have to be super progressive. Like, the most progressive person is the most likely to win. Now, Bernie Sanders, in the political spectrum of the Senate, is the most progressive person. But I think his real appeal is his honesty and the fact that he's clearly not corrupt, clearly an outsider, and it's the strength of his positions. It's not the extremeness of the positions, it's how significantly and strongly you hold those positions. So in this case, you had a strong centrist who was an outsider, good enough. So, in fact, they explained that after the wider election, obviously with the runoff in France, and the two rivals at the end shared an outsider status, but had radically different vision for France's future. The last two standing were both outsiders. Now, Le Pen had vowed to take France out of the Eurozone and return to the franc as a national currency. She said she'd hold a referendum on European Union membership, as well as introduce anti-Islam and anti-immigration policies, mimicking the campaign of U.S. President Donald Trump. She promised to pursue a French first agenda, and her election would have been a devastating blow to the EU. Well, this is your third told you. Just because they're an outsider and hence had some popularity, doesn't mean that all of France is right-wing, or all of America, or all the UK is right-wing. The press just cannot break out of the left-right spectrum thinking. So they're like, oh, Le Pen is rising. It must mean that France is really right-wing. No, she got slaughtered in the general election. Their final results were 66.1 for Macron and 33.9 for Marine Le Pen. So the reality is, only 34% of the French were interested in her version of the outsider model, the deeply right-wing version. They overall not popular. By the way, Donald Trump on the day of the election had an approval rating of only 37%, about where he is today. It's not like he's very popular in America. He's deeply unpopular. The only reason he won was because the Democratic Party put a complete establishment figure, the establishment figure, next to him. If you had run a progressive candidate, a populist candidate, an outsider candidate, Donald Trump, like Le Pen, would have almost certainly lost. Now, will the Democratic Party or Washington in general learn that lesson here in America? Unlikely. They'll probably go right back to that left-right spectrum and talk about the same things they always do and support the establishment like they always do. So finally, one more thing that Macron did right. In an interview with Britain's Channel 4 in March, Macron described what he sees as the error of politicians attempting to copy the far right's platform in order to undercut its popularity. Okay, I'm sorry, here's another told you. Now, here in America, again, the Democrats go, no. The right wing's popular. Look at Donald Trump. He won. Oh my God, they're so popular. Let's copy them. No, that's not the right strategy. Here's Macron's quote. He said, when some people decide to go in the Front National's direction on the political spectrum, that's a big mistake. That's a big mistake because they always prefer the original to the copy. Exactly right. Exactly what we've been saying here on this show. So, and by the way, what was the results? He got 66% of the vote. And he's the new president of France when he had never run for election before. Go outsider, be honest, be strong in your positions, and don't bend to the right wing pretending or actually believing that they are right or that the country agrees with them. Because they do not. They didn't in France. I don't believe they do in the UK. And they certainly don't here in America. Look at the polling. Give them a strong outsider perspective from the left, and you will crush. You will win every election you need to win here in America, and certainly throughout Europe as well, and France just showed that. The only question now is whether America is actually listening. I know we are. JusticeDemocrats.com. That's the exact right strategy. Okay, so, yeah, maybe I don't want the establishment Democrats to listen. Okay. No, I want everybody to get straightened out. All right, let's move to the next story. So there's something called the Golden Visa. It allows the really wealthy to enter the country by investing here to create jobs. Now, oftentimes they don't create jobs at all. They just buy fancy apartments in New York or some other place and allows them to get a visa here. Now, I'm told that Trump is against these kind of shenanigans with these immigrants coming in here and let alone people doing anchor babies. Oh, my God. Well, this is an anchor baby of a different sort, I suppose. Washington Post explains that there is a conference that was held in Beijing. Turns out Trump's son-in-law's family was there. Interesting. Their name was used all over the conference. And in fact, one of the ways that the conference was built, it said, invest $500,000 and immigrate to the United States. Well, that sounds appealing, I guess, if you're a really wealthy Chinese official, however you got that money, and need to get it out of the country, and would like to get a passport to America, instead of staying in China where you might get caught. Okay. And the Washington Post explains that over several hours of slideshows and presentations, representatives from the Kushner family, that's interesting, as in Jared Kushner, as in Ivanka Trump's husband, from the Kushner family business urged Chinese citizens gathered at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel to consider investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a New Jersey luxury apartment complex that would help them secure what's known as an investor visa. Hold. A little sick today. Had to get a little water there. Okay. Now, Jared Kushner, to be fair, wasn't there, and he says that he divested from this company. We'll get to his amusing excuse on that in a second. But his sister was there, And they were touting this as, hey, invest in the Kushner family, and all of a sudden you might get a golden visa. So let's explain what this visa is. The EB-5 Immigrant Investor Visa Program that Meyer, that's Kushner's sister, discussed Saturday allows rich foreign investors who are willing to plunk down large investments in U.S. projects that create jobs, supposedly, to apply to immigrate to the United States. The EB-5 program has been criticized by members of Congress from both parties who have said that the program, in essence, sells visas to the wealthiest foreigners. Well, that's exactly what it does. If you invest $500,000, I give you a visa. What else would you call that? Okay, the program has been extremely popular among rich Chinese who call it the, quote, golden visa. And I hear that the Kushners and the Trumps are ready to shower it all over them. Anyway, and are eager to get their families and their wealth out of the country. Gee, I wonder why. When you're rushing to get your wealth out of the country, there might be something a little wrong here. Now, I wanted to pause here before we get to the Kushner involvement here more thoroughly to note what the Statue of Liberty says. Now, the Statue of Liberty doesn't talk about golden visas and give me a rich and let's make them richer and make sure we can facilitate their corruption and make sure we can move the money made from that corruption out of their own country. It instead says, keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. See, that's what America is supposed to stand for. The golden door for the homeless, the wretched refuse. Not the incredibly wealthy who are willing to practice corruption with the people in power here in America so they can come here and live off of that corruption. Okay. Now, turns out Trump guys have been doing this for quite some time. Bloomberg News reported in March of 2016 that the program has been used to the benefit of both the Trump and Kushner family businesses. Before joining the White House as chief executive of his family's real estate company, Jared Kushner raised $50 million from Chinese EB-5 applicants for a Trump-branded apartment building in Jersey City, according to the report. So this is an old trick of theirs, but now that they're in power, well, they get to turn this a little bit better and quicker and more efficiently. So during this conference, the highlight of the afternoon was Meyer, a principal for the company, who was introduced in promotional materials as Jared Kushner's sister. So, like, in case you missed Kushner and her name, it's her middle name, but at this point, obviously, since she's married, we just want to point it out. That is Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law's sister. Okay? I don't know if they added the wink or an emoji to go along with it. The potential investors were advised to invest sooner rather than later in case visa rules change under the Trump administration. Quote, invest early and you will invest under the old rules, one speaker said. In other words, hey, look, we're in charge now. I ain't changed the rules on you. You better get in. Hurry up. Hurry up. It's like the most, old school scam there is. Hey, look, man, there's only a limited room available. You might want to rush in now. Otherwise, I can't tell you. Maybe we would change the rules on you. We are in charge. Did I mention this is Jared Kushner's sister? Okay. Now, here's their excuse. Mr. Kushner divested his interest, his attorney says, in the One Journal Square project by selling them to a family trust that he is not a beneficiary of, a mechanism suggested by the Office of Government Ethics. Yeah. Now, that'll take care of it. No, I gave it to my family. Oh, so then I see you have no interest in it anymore. I mean, it is preposterous. Could you imagine? I mean, look, anybody here. Anna's like, oh, no, it's okay. I gave it to my brother. No, I don't care about him. No, will he come back to help me? No, not at all. Us working together and emphasizing that she's my sister? No, of course not. Now, one of the investors that heard all this said, even though this is the project of the son-in-law's family, of course, it is still affiliated. In other words, yeah, we got it. We invest in this, we get a visa, and we get special treatment from the White House. Not complicated. Okay. Then there was a Washington Post and a New York Times reporter in this conference. They're taking notes, etc. Now, this is open to the public. All of a sudden, they get a visit from the people putting the conference together, and the Washington Post explains journalists were initially seated at the back of the ballroom, but as the presentations got underway, a public relations representative asked the Washington Post to leave, saying the presence of 4 reporters threatened the stability of the event. Indeed, it has become a little bit more unstable now that we realize what kind of scam that they're running. So they even grabbed the reporter's mic and backpack and tried to physically escort him out. They surrounded the participants of the meeting on their way out so the reporters couldn't talk to them. Asked why the reporters were asked to leave, a PR person who declined to identify herself said simply, "This is not the story we want." Well, that's true. That's not the story you wanted, but it's the story you got, because that's the real story. And maybe my favorite part is, after all this is out, the Kushner family has the temerity to put out this statement. Sorry. Forever known as the Rubio. On a 10-day trip, there's no way I'm not coming back sick. There's too many plane rides not to get sick. Basically, 2 red eyes. Oh, I gotta tell you a story about American Airlines. We'll save that for the postgame. Hold. Okay. They put out a statement saying, Kushner companies had nothing to do with it. Oh, they had nothing to do with it. Jesus, can I see a picture of the conference real quick? That appears to be a giant, I don't speak Chinese, but that appears to be a giant Kushner in the middle of the screen behind her. Also another Kushner on the right-hand upper corner right there as well, in case it wasn't clear enough. I don't know what it says in Chinese, but it might say Kushner. I don't know what the Kushner's had nothing to do with this. I don't know what you're talking about, Kushner. Where's the Kushner part? We got it, guys. You want to benefit off of your connections. It should be noted for the record, that's illegal. We'll see if anything ever comes of it. Okay, I've got a lot more for you guys, including healthcare. Apparently, I need it, but I got to take a break here. Let's come back, tell you an outrageous thing that a Republican said about healthcare, and then, as usual, Ted Cruz gets humiliated. Let's come back. Aspiration.com is a financial firm that you can fall in love with. We're addressing what's really broken about the financial industry, which is the relationship between financial companies and people. What's broken isn't something that can be fixed with a cool new app or a cool new feature. What's broken is that almost everyone perceives that it's heads financial companies win, tails the consumer loses. These organizations are not built and obsessed with serving their customers. They're built and obsessed to serve themselves and profit. That for them, profit has become the purpose instead of the byproduct of delivering on a purpose, which is to help people live their full potential, which is why we donate 10% of our income to charitable giving. Sometime in the future, I don't know if it'll be 7, 10 years, or 15, there'll be a day when Wells Fargo won't be the largest financial company, Aspiration will be the largest financial company. And that's because we're trusting people and creating a movement. We can't create a progressive future if we don't change the financial industry. What you do with your money, the bank you choose matters.
One thing to bear in mind about elite media is that it's concentrated overwhelmingly in a few locales. And the people who predominate those media circles tend to all know one another. They tend to crave one another's affirmation. They tend to be in the same sort of social networks. I think that leads to a general obliviousness and a susceptibility to excuse the failures of their colleagues and their friends. What you saw in the aftermath of the election was this move to blame the voters. I think that primarily the culpability lies with people who set the terms of the overall discussion, and those people are relatively affluent residents of New York City, Washington, D.C., they're so disconnected from average people on a regular basis. That's why I think the Young Turks is a great corrective, potentially, because it's a different model of how to gather news, how to process news, and how to interact with people on a regular basis.
All right, back in the Young Turks, let me read some tweets for you guys. Now, Mole says, when you're at the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and all you want to do is watch TYT live. Okay, God bless. You can make that happen. I don't know if you know this. It's on your phones. It's also could be on your TV in your living room. It could be anywhere. We're everywhere. Sean Buffard writes in, Cenk Uygur does the longest pre-news story announcements ever. You are correct, Sean. Sorry. I'm just trying to keep you filled in. All right, Ashley B says, if Macron can become president of France without running for office before, we can do anything. That is absolutely right. Rita Ann says, the Trump family is selling off our country piece by piece. Traitors. In fact, I kind of have another story about that in a second. And David says, no, Statue of Liberty is now accepting bribes. So, give me your really rich, your corrupt, and make sure they have pockets full of money, stuff them into my creases here. I mean, what they have done to pervert the American idea is gross. All right, now, let's go to the next story. Also about corruption. Okay. Really interesting story coming out from James Dodson. He's a golf writer. So what does this have to do with politics? Well, you'll see in a second. He's talking to NPR's Only a Game. Now, he has co-written a book in the past with Arnold Palmer, and he's an esteemed golf writer, having nothing to do with politics before. He was talking on Friday about a remark that came during a tour of the recently renamed Trump National Golf Club Charlotte. Ah, interesting. So he explained that 3 years ago in 2014, this is what happened. He said, so when I got into a cart with Eric Trump, as we were setting off, I said, Eric, who's funding? I know no banks, because of the recession, the Great Recession, have touched a golf course. You know, no one's funding any kind of golf construction. It's dead in the water the last 4 or 5 years. And this is what he said. He said, quote, well, we don't rely on American banks. We have all the funding we need out of Russia. I said, really? And he said, oh, yeah, we've got some guys that really, really love golf. I'm sure that's why they did it. And they're really invested in our programs. We just go there all the time. Well, that's very interesting. So, this is obviously very relevant because a lot of theories revolve around how Trump had a lot of his projects financed by the Russians well before he got into the presidential race, and that perhaps he owed the Russians a lot of money, and that perhaps that could be part of the connection as to why they helped him in the race, and now that is the conclusion of our intelligence agencies, and what they might have expected in return. Okay. Now, of course, the Trumps come out and furiously deny this. Shocking. Eric Trump says, it's a recollection from some guy 3 years ago through a third person. No, it's not through a third person. It's the guy you talked to. And 3 years ago is not like 30 years ago. That's fairly easy to remember, especially when you say something memorable like, no, the Russians are financing all our golf courses. That's how we got the loans in the middle of the recession. We're going to have to do a drinking game today of every time I drink, you drink. Although I don't want to get you drunk. Could you imagine if this was alcohol? It'd be so badass. No, just water. Okay, hold on. Almost there. Eric Trump then went on to say, we have zero ties to Russian investors. Zero ties. In fact, back in January, Donald Trump had said something very similar. He said, Russia has never tried to use leverage over me. And then in caps, because he's a child, I have nothing to do with Russia. No deals, no loans, no nothing. It's a clown. By the way, when you write it like that, you know what's the first thing I think? Oh, this guy's got to deal with the Russians. Okay, take it easy, big guy. So, now, I give you all of that because they said no deals ever with the Russians. But back in 2008, Donald Trump Jr. had said this. And in terms of high-end product influx into the U.S., Russians make up a pretty disproportionate cross-section of a lot of our assets, say in Dubai, and certainly with our project in Soho, and anywhere in New York. We see a lot of money pouring in from Russia. From Russia with considerable love. So, which one is it? My guess is that back when they didn't think they were running for president, or they didn't know that people were going to find out about how much money they owed the Russians, or that it was ever going to be relevant in the public, that they were telling the truth. Why would you make up a lie in 2008 about how you're getting all this Russian money pouring into your assets in Soho, New York, etc.? Why would you randomly tell a guy that works as a golf writer about, oh no, don't worry about it, all these things are funded by the Russians? Unless it was true. It's a super, super weird thing to make up, right? And now, if you think, no, they would never lie when it is super important for them not to get caught, then I guess you're awfully naive, to say the least. So, if you're a Trump fan, hang in there, brother, man. No. So, I'm sure you believe that Donald Trump Jr. back then lying about the Russians, because Donald Trump Jr. is a total liar, right? And Eric Trump, liar too, when he said that the Russians were financing the golf courses. No way, man. Those kids, they're no good liars, you know. Or you could pretend for the rest of your life that everything is fake news. No, even when you quote the Trumps, it's fake. But they said it. It's obvious. It's right there, right? The Donald Trump Jr. one is in public. I don't know. The world is fake. Okay, good luck to you, brother. if you borrowed this much money from the Russians, guess what? There's a record of it. Did you pay him back? How much did you owe him? This dude's going to get caught. He can write in all caps all he likes. He's going to get caught. Okay. Gee, I wonder why he wouldn't release his tax returns. I can't quite figure it out. Okay. Now, let's go to another Republican. Drink. Okay. No, not Flim Flam Man. Let's go to Labrador. I'm going to go to him. No, I'm coming to you guys in a sec. Hold. Give me one more. You got Labrador. You got a dog barking up the wrong tree. I know it's in there somewhere. There we go. Okay. Get it? Wrong tree, Labrador. Anyways. Okay. Representative Raul Labrador is a very good servant of the donor class. Now, he would claim that he's very conservative. Okay, sure. Whatever gets you through the night. So he's one of the guys defending this healthcare proposal of the Republicans in the House. And he's one of the guys who drove it to be even more conservative. So right now, it has $765 billion in tax cuts for the rich. What a wonderful coincidence. It also happens to cut $800 billion from Medicaid. According to the last estimate of the less draconian plan, it cuts $24 million from the healthcare rules. 24 million Americans won't have healthcare anymore. But no, he doesn't work for the rich. It's just, he believes in freedom. The freedom that you go and die wherever you die when you don't have insurance. I don't really care about you. And the freedom to take big checks from my big donors. I wonder what kind of dog works in this fashion. Okay. A loyal one, probably. A donor's best friend. Okay. So, now, his constituents not awfully happy about this because some of them are going to lose their health care, and they kind of like Medicaid. I think a lot of people do. So they asked him about it, and it didn't go well for Labrador. Let's watch.
You are mandating people on Medicaid except dying. You are making a
No one wants anybody to die. That line is so indefensible. Nobody dies because they don't have access to health care.
Did you hear that? Quote, nobody dies because they don't have access to health care. I'm pretty sure that's not true. Like, they've gotten so used to lying with this. Like, whatever, man. I don't know. What did Koch brothers tell me to say? Healthcare, nobody needs it. Yeah. No. If you don't get healthcare, you'll be perfectly fine. If you're sick, don't sweat it. Okay, I'll needlessly give you facts here, even though it's obvious on its face. What a brazen liar Labrador is. Prior to the passage of the Affordable Care Act, the landmark law commonly known as Obamacare, some 45,000 Americans died annually due to their lack of health insurance, according to a 2009 Harvard study. That's why they attack academia, because they bring you facts. So they're like, facts are so biased. Don't listen to any professors. Don't listen to the media. Don't listen to journalists. Don't listen to scientists. Just listen to me. You don't need health care. Nobody ever died from not having health care. Taken together, this law cuts over $800 billion from Medicaid over 10 years, which is roughly the cost of the tax cuts on the high earners that it would enact. What a wonderful coincidence. And they explained that in this case the Huffington Post, although the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office does not provide estimates of the legislation's fatality rate, it did project that the bill would deprive 24 million Americans of health insurance in its first decade as law. So, even if you were to give all the benefit of the doubt to our good friend Labrador here, and said, hey, good boy, you're right, you could go to emergency rooms. Like, that's a big excuse for the Republicans. Okay, yes, if you break your ankle, you can go to an emergency room. By the way, good luck to you. It'll cost you so much money, it'll probably bankrupt the average American. Okay, that's in a twisted or broken ankle situation. What if you have cancer? Well, you can't go get treatments at an emergency room, but right before you die of all the tumors, you can show up in the emergency room, and then they'll declare you dead. Nobody ever died from lack of access to health care. If you haven't figured out how draconian the Republicans are, how barbaric they are, and how little they care about you and your health care, you're just not paying attention. Or you're one of their big donors who think, I'm going to buy plenty of health care with the $765 billion in tax cuts they just gave me. Warren Buffett came out today and said, what are they doing? Why are they giving us all these tax cuts for the rich? It's like, on this tax cut alone, Warren Buffett, just by himself, is going to save $687,000 a year. He says, I don't need that. What we need to do is fix our health care, because that's what's slowing our economy down. If you actually cared about jobs, you cared about the economy, you'd fix our health care and not destroy it just to give the tax cuts to the rich. But Labrador doesn't have a mind of his own. He's just a good little boy that serves his donor class. Go fetch, Raul. Go fetch. Okay. I think you get a clear sense of how I feel about Labrador. Let's go on to Sally Yates. There we go. Okay. Mike Flynn's in a lot of trouble. He was the national security advisor for Donald Trump. Now he's being investigated for his ties to the Russians. Of course, he was fired. Donald Trump keeps complaining that people have been very unfair to him. Hey, dude, you fired him. I didn't fire him. You fired him. Okay. So Sally Yates is now testifying in Congress. Who is she? She was the Deputy Attorney General under Barack Obama, and actually for 10 days under Trump, she was the acting Attorney General for Donald Trump. Because obviously it was a transition period. He didn't pick her out of the blue. She was the Deputy Attorney General, and when the Attorney General stepped down, he allowed her to continue. She defied his order on immigration for legal and constitutional reasons, and he was furious, and he fired her, and then put his own person in. But one of the things that Sally Yates had done in that brief period of time is warn the Trump administration. She didn't go public with it. She warned the Trump administration internally, hey guys, be careful. Mike Flynn has talked to the Russians and talked to them about sanctions, and he told Mike Pence, the vice president, a different story. Mike Pence is publicly saying something that's wrong. In essence, she's trying to help them, saying, be careful, guys. Don't have Mike Pence say that. It's going to get you in trouble because Mike Flynn isn't telling the truth. So in her testimony today, she said, to state the obvious, you don't want your national security advisor compromised with the Russians. A fair point, it seems. One more description from the Washington Post. She explained that the Russians also knew about what General Flynn had done. And the Russians also knew that General Flynn had misled the vice president and others and created a situation where, quote, the national security advisor could essentially be blackmailed by the Russians. That's what she testified today. In fact, I want to give you some of her testimony afterwards. I'm going to give you Donald Trump's reaction, which, of course, as usual, is predictably hilarious and wrong. So let's watch Sally Yates.
I had 2 in-person meetings and 1 phone call with the White House counsel about Mr. Flynn. We began our meeting telling him that there had been press accounts of statements from the vice president and others that related conduct that Mr. Flynn had been involved in that we knew not to be the truth. We also told the White House counsel that General Flynn had been interviewed by the FBI on February 24th. Mr. McGahn asked me how he did, and I declined to give him an answer to that. And we then walked through with Mr. McGahn essentially why we were telling them about this. And the first thing we did was to explain to Mr. McGahn that the underlying conduct that General Flynn had engaged in was problematic in and of itself. Secondly, we told him we felt like the vice president and others were entitled to know that the information that they were conveying to the American people wasn't true. We told him the third reason is because we were concerned that the American people had been misled about the underlying conduct and what General Flynn had done. And additionally, that we weren't the only ones that knew all of this, that the Russians also knew about what General Flynn had done, and that this was a problem because not only did we believe that the Russians knew this, but that they likely had proof of this information. And that created a compromise situation, a situation where the national security advisor essentially could be blackmailed by the Russians. Finally, we told them that we were giving them all of this information so that they could take action. the action that they deemed appropriate. I remember that Mr. McGahn asked me whether or not General Flynn should be fired, and I told him that that really wasn't our call, that was up to them, but that we were giving them this information so that they could take action.
So now that seems very clear, but Donald Trump's not having any of it. Before she even testified, he yelled into Twitter, ask Sally Yates under oath if she knows how classified information got into the newspapers soon after she explained it to the White House counsel. He originally misspelled counsel. They had to spell check the man-child. And by the way, the Republicans are like, oh, yes, sir. Now, this is supposed to be an investigation about what happened with the Russians. But since Donald Trump publicly asked the Republicans to grill her on his pet peeve issue, well, here comes the Republicans to do exactly as Trump commanded them. Let's watch.
So for both of you, yes or no, as far as you know, has any classified information relating to Mr. Trump or his associates been declassified and shared with the media?
Not to my knowledge.
Ms. Yates?
Not to my knowledge either.
Okay. Have either of you ever been an anonymous source in a news report about matters relating to Mr. Trump, his associates, or Russians' attempt to meddle in the election?
No.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did either of you ever authorize someone else at your respective organizations to be an anonymous source in a news report about Mr. Trump or his associates?
No.
No.
So Trump tells him on Twitter, hey, ask these questions. Grassley, pretending to be an independent Republican for a long time, like, oh, I'm my own man, I'm a senator. Oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. How about the leaks? How about the leaks, huh? How about the investigation of what Flynn actually did with the Russians? No, of course, the Republicans tried to distract with, oh, no, the problem isn't that he had deals with the Russians. The problem is that we found out about it. Ooh, it gets terrible to get your hand stuck in the Russian cookie jar. So Trump also tweeted, General Flynn was given the highest security clearance by the Obama administration, but the fake news seldom likes talking about that. Okay. Well, let's go to Talking Points memo. 3 anonymous Obama administration officials who spoke to NBC confirmed that Obama, who fired Flynn as the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency in 2014, warned Trump against bringing him into this highly sensitive role. So, now, Trump says, oh yeah, they gave him clearance. You left out the part where they fired him. And it turns out before Obama left, he tried to help Trump. Again, like Yates, gave him a private, not public, a private warning. Hey, watch out for Flynn. He's not going to help your cause. One of the Trump staffers acknowledged that Obama, in fact, did warn them. One of them said, well, we thought he was joking. Why would you joke about that? What kind of a weird joke would that be? I got a really great one for you, Donnie. Your national security advisor works for the Russians. Maybe a moron like Trump might think that that was a joke. Well, it turns out, Donald, the joke's on you. All right, I got to take a quick break here. When we come back, the humiliation of Ted Cruz.
To the Control Room exclusive members coverage of TYT postgame live from Rebel headquarters in sunny Los Angeles. So Jason, the air is electric after yesterday's postgame.
Talking about Miami, you know, the only thing about this, Jason, is we've heard the Miami stories. I'm looking at Kasparian's interest here. She's giving him the cordial glance to the side, but I just don't know if it's really there.
Oh, that's where the vagina is.
Okay, that joke landed like Apollo 13 there, and Kasparian gives him the courtesy laugh, gives him the Edwin way.
Had you had sex at that point when you took that class?
Anyways, so
Hold on a minute. He's found an opening. Is he finding his way to come back, Jason? Jay Kruger coming back with a comment. No one would have seen this coming.
and he's in the mood, and there's some music in the background. He's got the sideburns, he's got the long hair.
He won't fan himself. There's no way he's ready to. I mean, I've expected. It's got it. It's unbelievable.
Every dog has his day, and this dog is having the best day of his damn life.
That was an outstanding post game. If tonight's post game is anything like last night's, we were in for another.
Exactly right, Francis. And don't forget to check out the TYT post game after the Young Turks every weekday on TYTnetwork.com/memberslive.
Hey, Al, I can't remember. Is there a specific blur we use for Miley Cyrus's butthole? Is it like a Gaussian or a mosaic or compound?
Robbie Connell, he calls his work urban beautification.
I didn't go out to be a street artist or to make posters. I was just compelled because I was mad enough. It didn't matter. It was like a form of minor civil disobedience even. You know, like, fuck you. How about your higher ground? Power operates to self-replicate itself to maintain the status quo so it stays in power. When you go to do something like this to express yourself in public about an issue you care about, make sure you pick a bigger weapon, and the weapon is knowledge. The one thing about street art, it's not like I put up my posters to change anybody's mind about anything. The difference between propaganda and the kind of art I do is propaganda is telling people what to think. The way the art works, where the art works, is between the time you see it and the time you figure it out for yourself. I'm an optimist. I might have made a lot of ugly paintings about a lot of ugly people, but it's out of love, not for them.
Young Turks. Oh, look at this. I have some old names left over from the journalism drive. I'm going to read one last time. $27 from Ian in Louisiana, $27 from Maria in Connecticut, $50 from Courtney in California, and $100 from Freddie in Texas. Bless all your hearts. Okay, that was one last time for old time's sakes. Okay, so a couple of quick tweets for you guys. Derek Martin, Trump reminds me of Gordon Gekko, and Kushner reminds me of Charlie Sheen. Not the Wall Street character, just Sheen. That's really funny, actually. Tom Sherry says, I love how Trump idiot's son Eric keeps exposing Trump's corruption. Me too, brother. And then I Am Sock writes, is Eric the dumbest Trump or the most honest or both? I'm going to go with neither. He's definitely not doing it out of honesty. He's a total knucklehead. He's the one that Trump trusts the least. He's like, all right, if I have a project, I'm giving it to Ivanka. Oh, she can't do it. I got to give it to Fucking Donald Jr. Jesus Christ. God help me, right? Oh, no, he's busy too. I gotta give it to Eric. Oh, is Tiffany available? Right. So that's how it goes, but he is not the dumbest. Actually, the guy who's the dumbest is Donald. Look, don't get me started. People are massively underestimating how dumb Donald Trump is. Massively. He's preposterously dumb. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in the postgame a little bit today, too, actually. We got 3 great topics for you guys in the postgame. I ran into Will Smith. Does he still hate us? I wound up on an American Airlines flight. How did that happen? And then I wound up off an American Airlines flight. Oh, my God. It happened again. I'm not kidding. Well, I'll tell you about that in the postgame, and then I'll get into how stupid Trump is, too. TYTnetwork.com/join to become a member, and members of the day are Leland Kern and Jameson Hetrick. Okay, 2 last stories for you guys in this hour, whatever this hour means. Okay. So Sally Yates is in front of Congress, and she's testifying in the Senate about the Russian connections that Mike Flynn has. Now, this is very serious business. He's a former national security advisor, and he lied about talking to the Russian ambassador about lifting the sanctions. I mean, they're talking about the sanctions that the U.S. has on Russia, and if Flynn is talking about those sanctions and when he's going to become the national security advisor at that time, that's super serious, and is talking about coercion, and then he lied about it, which then opens him up to blackmail charges, etc. Now, as everybody else is talking about that, Ted Cruz decides, no, I'm going to do a couple other things. 1, I'm going to grandstand. 2, I'm not going to talk about Russia at all, because I want to deflect attention from my friend Donald Trump. And most importantly, I'm going to show people what a legal scholar I am. Now, Sally Yates was the Deputy Attorney General under Obama, and for a brief time, the Acting Attorney General under Donald Trump. Obviously, very well versed in the law, but Ted's going to stump her. Or is he? Oh, this is going to be awesome. So, first of all, he's going to cite a statute. No one knows what any of the exact statutes are off the top of their head. Of course, you checked that before you wrote a brief, etc., right? So he thinks this is a good rhetorical trick. I'll get her with it. Let's find out if he, in fact, did get her.
Is it correct that the Constitution vests the executive authority in the president?
Yes.
And if an attorney general disagrees with a policy decision of the president, a policy decision that is lawful, does the attorney general have the authority to direct the Department of Justice to defy the president's order?
I don't know whether the Attorney General has the authority to do that or not, but I don't think it would be a good idea, and that's not what I did in this case.
Well, are you familiar with 8 U.S.C. Section 1182?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Well, it is the binding statutory authority for the executive order that you refused to implement and that led to your termination. So it certainly is a relevant and not a terribly obscure statute. By the express text of the statute, it says, quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any alien or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restrictions he may deem appropriate. Would you agree that that is broad statutory authorization?
I would, and I am familiar with that, and I'm also familiar with an additional provision of the INA that says no person shall receive preference or be discriminated against in issuance of a visa because of race, nationality, or place of birth. That, I believe, was promulgated after the statute that you just quoted. And that's been part of the discussion with the courts with respect to the INA, is whether this more specific statute trumps the first one that you just described. But my concern was not an INA concern here. It rather was a constitutional concern, whether or not this the executive order here violated the Constitution, specifically with the Establishment Clause and equal protection and due process.
I hope you followed all that, because that was so awesome. He's like, are you familiar with this section of the law? And then he reads it to her. He's like, oh, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, you knucklehead, how about the later provision that says this, which Trump was clearly in violation of? Oh, I wish I'd read that later provision. And she's like, that's the more specific statute. But on top of that, I'll sprinkle in my constitutional reasons, which you hadn't addressed at all. Okay. Ted, you're so embarrassing. I'm going to show you what happened at the very end in a little bit, because you're going to love the ending of this story. But let's go for round two and see if Ted comes out any better in round two.
There is no doubt the arguments you laid out are arguments that we can expect litigants to bring, partisan litigants who disagree with the policy decision of the president. I would note on January 27th, 2017, the Department of Justice issued an official legal decision, a determination by the Office of Legal Counsel, that the executive order, and I'll quote from the opinion, the proposed order is approved with respect to form and legality. 3 days later, you determined, using your own words, that although OLC had opined on legality, it had not addressed whether it was, quote, wise or just.
And I also, in that same directive, Senator, said that I was not convinced it was lawful. They importantly do not look outside the face of the document. And in this particular instance, particularly where we were talking about a fundamental issue of religious freedom, not the interpretation of some arcane statute, but religious freedom, it was appropriate for us to look at the intent behind the president's actions, and the intent is laid out in his statement.
Final, very, very brief question. In the over 200 years of the Department of Justice history, are you aware of any instance in which the Department of Justice has formally approved the legality of a policy and 3 days later the Attorney General has directed the department not to follow that policy and to defy that policy?
I'm not, but I'm also not aware of a situation where the Office of Legal Counsel was advised not to tell the Attorney General about it until after it was over.
Thank you, Ms. Yates.
Oops. Say, are you aware of this? Yeah, but how about the part where they didn't tell me about it? And that's also unprecedented. Thank you, Ms. Yates. Oh, yeah? Did you notice the part where you said it was why it wasn't wise or just? So that seems like an opinion not attached to the law. Did you miss the part where I also said it was unlawful? Whatevs. So someone took a picture right after this embarrassing back and forth with Ted Cruz, where he thought he was going to outwit her, and it didn't prove to be the case. Oh, what happened with Ted Cruz? Let's take a look at that picture. Okay, that's his seat right there. God, and he dropped the mic and ran. Okay, didn't drop the mic in the right kind of way. If he thought he got the better end.
I was calling.
Tony.
Yeah.
One. And since he was a newer member of this fraternity, they immediately shot him down and told him, hey, know your role. We're not going to do that, okay?
So, look, just these guys are supposed to be fraternity of brothers, right? They'll do anything for each other. I had a frat guy in the college that I went to that said, if my brother at the fraternity told me to shoot my mom, I would. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Glad they did that kind of brainwashing on you. So, but is he really your brother? If you say, hey, you know what? We might get in trouble, so I'd rather endanger his well-being and maybe even his life than for me to get in a little bit of trouble. It doesn't really seem like your brother, does it? Doesn't seem like much of a fraternity to them. And yes, this Cordell Davis kid tried to do the right thing, and other fraternity members slammed him against the wall and prevented him from calling the cops.
Right.
Okay? 18 members of the frat have been charged. 18. So there was one guy who did the right thing and many others who didn't.
Right. So when he fell off the couch, and by the way, he fell several times during this entire episode, a group dragged him back up, slammed him down, and smacked his bruised abdomen hard.
Oh.
At 4 in the morning, he tried to stand from his position curled up on the fraternity house floor, only to fall face first into the hardwood floor. An hour later, he staggered into the lobby, stumbled, and hit his head on an iron railing before collapsing once more. Sometime after 7 a.m., he fell down the basement stairs again. Finally, at 10:48 on the morning of February 3rd, 11 hours after his first fall down the staircase, a fraternity member named Ryan McCann called the ambulance. He died the following morning.
So, in the beginning, after the first fall, somebody records it on Snapchat. Haha, funny, right? In the morning, after he's already fallen over and over and over again, this is all on security footage cameras, so it's not in dispute. Two frat members just step over his body. One of them just to get water. The other one laughs and decides he's going to record him because this is, again, really, really funny. Remember, he's got the big bruise on his head already, let alone all the other things that have happened to him, right? He died from his spleen.
Ruptured spleen.
Ruptured spleen. Now, remember, they slammed his abdomen in an effort to help him, right? And internal bleeding. So he could have been saved 1,000 times that night. If you're his family watching that footage, how is that not the most heartbreaking thing you've ever seen in your entire life, man? For God's sake, if you're his so-called brothers, get him some help. Isn't anybody going to step up and help that kid? If they had done it after the first fall, he almost certainly would have lived. We don't know that for sure. Maybe the spleen was already gone, etc. But remember, he made it all the way till the next morning, right? Then they called the ambulance, right? But after the first fall, the second fall, the third fall, the fourth fall, somebody get him help!
Yeah. Look, I usually shy away from zero tolerance policies and draconian, efforts to stop things. But when it comes to hazing, I just don't see any benefit, okay? I see it as a way of humiliating people, dehumanizing people, putting their lives in jeopardy. Okay, if you want to make an argument about, the importance of frats, which I don't know if I even buy into, fine. Okay, I'm not going to say ban fraternities. But at the same time, I don't understand why hazing in this modern era continues to happen.
And
right?
Look, the whole point of hazing is to, and it's a psychological trick, is to break you down so that it robs you of your individualism and you join a community, which ironically, a little communist there, but sorry, communists, but and then you become part of that community. Now, the reason the military does it and fraternities do it is that so you become more bonded. We know that this is, and by the religions do it, a lot of different parts do it. Now, do you really want to lose your individualism? You really want to break down, who you are? I don't want any part of that. I don't want anybody I love to be any part of that. I don't want it if the military does it so that you can kill better. I don't want it if religions do it so that you can believe in a sky god. And I certainly don't want it in this context. So, you know what his blood alcohol level was? 0.40. Not 0.04, 0.40. That's 5x of the legal allowable limit. I don't want anybody going through this. This is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and what helps me bond with people is kindness, helping one another out. I mean, I can't imagine someone torturing me or dehumanizing me and then me thinking like, you know what? I feel like I'm bonding with this person or this organization or this group of people. This is so devastating, and I feel so bad for his family. And, I hope justice is served here, but we need to actually learn lessons from stories like this. Not report on them and feel outraged, and then there's absolutely no action later. It's not just about this particular fraternity. It's about fraternities in general and how there needs to be policies banning anything even close to this type of hazing.
Yeah, so finally, it's not to say that every single fraternity does this or does this in this kind of extreme. Of course not, right? But do a lot of fraternities do? Most fraternities do hazing? Yes, they do. So, excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sick. I want to finish the thought in 1 second. Jesus. All right.
Mm-hmm. Not all fraternities.
Yeah. So until frats stop hazing, look, just on a personal level, if anybody asks me, I'm going to say, no. Don't ever let your kids or anyone you love join a frat that does hazing. Because I don't want to risk a .40 blood level. That's enormously dangerous on its own. I don't want to risk you dying in your own vomit. I don't want my kids to risk any of that. I don't want their personality broken down and join some sort of brotherhood that actually doesn't give a rat's ass about them. Okay? And I certainly don't want to take any kind of risk like this. Doesn't mean that this is going to happen in every case. It just means it's a certain level of risk you take in any hazing situation. And my answer to that is hell no.
Right. All right, we got to take a break. So stick around, and when we come back, lots of other stories, including a viral video featuring some Muslim hate in Virginia.
Journalism, post-World War II linked itself to the corporate model, moved away from kind of a more opinion-driven, kind of partisan approach to media that had dominated before that. And as the 20% profit margins accrued over the years, it moved from a working-class profession to an elite profession. And as broadcast news kind of supplanted print, people became famous. And so you took two steps away from regular people. And the further you got away from regular people, the less regular people trusted what they were getting. The media was clearly an elite institution. And the clearer that became to people, the less they trusted it. The cable networks are casting a broad net, so they have to hit this, that, and this, all in a half an hour segment, where on the web, you could say, you know what, we're just going to do 30 or 40 minutes just on healthcare reform, just on Wall Street, just on immigration. And the people who want to be there for that and want to learn about the issue, want to engage with it, they'll stick around for the whole 40 minutes. The people who don't, they'll go find something else. But cable can't get away with that because they're trying to keep everybody constantly, so they've got to keep everything moving. I've been doing investigative journalism for years, along with daily journalism, and I think it's important to blend the two so that you don't lose touch with the news cycle. You don't go away for a year and then come back with one big piece. You can do both. And there's a range. There's the year-long project. There's the week-long project. There's the month-long project. There's a half-year project. And I'm definitely looking forward to doing a lot of that here. On the one hand, you can do the best story ever, and if nobody reads it, it didn't have the impact. It didn't matter. So the journalism can't just be artistic vanity. It has to have a public-facing element. It has to mean something to people, and for that to happen, people have to read it. So there is an obligation, I think, that journalists have to get people to click on their stuff and to get people to watch it. Otherwise, it's just pure vanity. On the other hand, if all you care about is clicks, then you're going to do the easiest cherry picks stories, in spite of the fact that people are much more likely to click on the trivial stuff. You still have to do the investigations, because if you don't, nobody else will. And investigative journalism so often is what changes the world. If you look back at almost any social movement, go back far enough, you're going to see a piece of journalism that opened people's eyes, got them enraged, got them inspired, got them to organize, march, protest, until they got to where they are now.
I just closed my Wells Fargo account. I just divested funds from Wells Fargo. I definitely urge you to do the same. Please come divest. Divest today from all the big banks. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Citibank, Chase. There are so many others. Do it. We can make a difference. Water is life.
Let me read some messages for you guys. On YouTube Super Chat, we got Antonio Luna writing in, Jimmy is one sexy beast. All right, agree to disagree?
All right, I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
We're just playing bus nuts with you, Jimmy. All right. Sabrina Hartman writes in on Twitter, hashtag TYT Live, college frat culture is so dangerous, I'm surprised stories like this aren't more common. Michael Ritchie says, if hazing is a prerequisite for your group, I'm not interested in your group.
Yeah. Totally agree.
A Derpy Panda says, and these guys are our future leaders and Wall Street elites that will crash our economy. Let me leave it right there because there's plenty of others. That story was heartbreaking. Yeah. So, reminder, guys, on tomorrow's show, we have a very important announcement about Just Democrats. On Wednesday's show, surprise announcement that is gigantic. Top of the show, 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. We're going to rock the world with this announcement. I'm not playing around, okay? And then in today's post game, we're going to do 3 awesome stories. I ran into Will Smith. You remember how we had that beef?
Yeah. Did we?
Remember when we talked about Jaden and Willow?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he still hate us? Okay.
Okay.
So, it is a very clear answer.
Oh no, he hates us?
Well, we'll find out, okay?
Man.
And then I got okay, just hold on.
Everybody hates us.
Okay, just calm down. And another story about how stupid Donald Trump is, and then I got taken off another American Airlines flight. Unbelievable. I know. So I'll explain that too. So tytnetwork.com/join to become a member, get the post game, get the whole 2-hour show ad free as well. All right, what's next?
Okay. An Ohio teacher has lost her job after another educator at the school acted as a little bit of a whistleblower and outed her after she dragged a student down the hall by his arm. So this is Alta Head Start. It is a preschool, and the student that she's dragging is a preschooler. black preschooler, to be exact. And so another educator saw this and decided to take a photo of it and share it with the administrators. And of course, local media, WKBN, reported on it. The mother of the child, of course, is outraged. Stevelyn Harshman is planning on suing as a result of this. And it's crazy because this school has a CEO. It's a preschool, so I'm guessing this is the type of thing that you would probably have to pay for.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, this is insane. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it other than you can't be dragging students like that across a hallway holding their arms.
Yeah. Look, as a parent, of course, it freaks you out. Is this possible in wherever, you're sending your kids? This happens to be in Ohio at the Youngstown City Schools. Second of all, you can't help but wonder,
how often it happens?
A, how often it happens. B, and did she devalue him because he was a black kid, and so not that big a deal? We don't know. We don't know what's in her head or heart. In this case, it doesn't really matter because you can't be doing that to any kid anyway, so she should be fired and has been fired. So
yeah. It was the appropriate reaction to this photo. And also, I give a lot of credit to the other educator on campus who decided to take that picture and say something about it.
Yeah, and my guess is in a situation like that you take a picture like that and complain if you've had previous issues.
Exactly.
Right? Like, if everything's great and you guys are all friends and everybody treats the kids decently, and then all of a sudden one person on a bad day does something they really, really shouldn't have done, they probably don't get thrown under a bus.
Right.
Like, it probably happens in a situation where, like, that's it, I've had enough of this. How many times is she going to do that? Right? And that's probably what happened here. We don't know all the details. So, but it's interesting. They're suing, right? I don't blame them. It's just not in my nature. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, if I'm wronged enough, I'm sure I would sue, right? And there's nothing wrong with suing if you're in a situation like this. It just wouldn't have occurred to me. I'd be like, yeah, I don't know, okay. So, I'd be like, oh, I'm so pissed. Oh, you fired her. Good, great.
Look, I don't know what I would do in this situation, but for the mother, do you, boo, right? Do what you feel is right. If you feel like you need to take legal action, I understand it. I would be so enraged. That's the only thing I know for sure. And so if the only retaliation that I could get is through the legal system, then I'm going to go through the legal system, right? Because I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to retaliate in other ways and then get in trouble. You don't want to do that. So
the old school rolling thing. What is it? The
rolling pin.
The rolling pin that your mom chased somebody with.
Yeah, she had a rolling pin in her car at all times. I don't know why. And when she saw another male student slap my butt in 3rd grade or 4th grade, I believe, she got out of the car and she went after him with the rolling pin. Never slapped my butt again.
Old rolling pin justice. No, keep it legal. Let's keep it legal. That's old school stuff, right? Anyway, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
Do you, boo?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Okay.
All right, moving on. A Virginia woman has been caught on camera spewing anti-Muslim and anti-Obama hate at a Trader Joe's. So we're going to show you the video in a second, but I want to give proper credit to the individual who posted it on Facebook, which then led to it going viral. It was posted by Jeremy McLellan, and this did happen in Reston, Virginia. The person who filmed it was not Jeremy, but it was a friend of his. She does not want any media attention. She doesn't want to do any interviews, but she does want this to kind of go out there so people can understand what's happening throughout the country. This all started when she actually let this woman cut in front of her in line because she only had one item. And then the woman apparently saw another Muslim customer wearing a niqab, and she started saying anti-Muslim stuff about that and also female genital mutilation. And so at that point...
So this is another person in line, right? Not the person who was taping.
The person who's taping ended up engaging with her because she overheard her saying negative things about the other Muslim woman who was wearing a niqab.
Yep.
And so that's when things kind of started to get heated, and the Muslim woman in line started filming. And here's what we have. Take a look.
video's not working, guys. We've been having a little bit of trouble with the TriCaster lately with these videos. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we're doing a new TriCaster fundraising drive.
Oh, please. Okay.
I'm kidding. Okay.
That would make me harm myself. Okay, so let's move on. So
let's try it one last time.
Okay. Okay, let me just quickly summarize it for you. So the woman, and I'm sure most of you already seen it because it went viral, but the woman just starts talking about how she shouldn't have let. It starts with the Muslim woman in line saying, "I shouldn't have let you cut in front of me in line," right? Because here's this woman saying negative things about Muslims. And she's like, "We shouldn't have let you into the country." And then the Muslim woman's like, "Excuse me, I'm an American citizen. I was born here," right? And then at that point, the unidentified agitator, I guess, turned around and said, "Obama's not president anymore." And so she was trying to make a point about, like, Obama's not president anymore. Our Muslim president is no longer around. So
she said there's no longer a Muslim in the Oval Office.
There's no longer a Muslim in the Oval Office. Okay. So you got to get a gist of what it was. I got to be honest with you. It didn't. There was obviously hateful language, but it didn't get out of control to the point where there was a shouting match. Because we've seen so many of those videos where people lose it and they just start hurling insanely racist terminology or xenophobic terminology. In this case, that's not what happened, but it was implied, at least from what we can see in the video.
Yeah. So, first of all, if Trader Joe's aren't safe, what's safe anymore?
I know. And also, it's kind of miraculous how she needed an entire cart for a bag of avocados. Like, I can't get over the fact that that's what she needed a cart for. But anyway, let's move on. Just hold the bag of avocados.
Okay, so...
it's already crowded at Trader Joe's, you know what I mean?
Okay, so that was really the most salient point made here. So, the reason why this is interesting is because during the Trump era, we now have these bigots that have come out of the closet, and we wish they hadn't. This is one closet you should really stay in, and it's getting really ugly, and they feel empowered and they feel like they can finally say what they've been thinking all along, right? And so them saying it is disturbing because then the poor people have to deal with it, etc. And look, I think about it like if somebody had said to someone I love, I'd get so mad. And I don't know that I could control myself as well as they did, right? So, like, now nobody in my family wears a hijab, niqab, anything, right? Secular, etc. And I'm agnostic. My dad is agnostic. And the list goes on and on and on in our family, right? But if somebody found out that my aunt or whatever, right, if a cousin is Muslim, and they start yelling at her and say, "Oh, get out of this country," when she's a citizen. So that is infuriating. But what's actually a little bit more depressing is apparently they've been thinking that for years and years and years. And all these people who were in the closet, who you never knew, you thought was just a nice, pleasant person in Trader Joe's sitting next to you, turns out hated you all along.
I know, and what's kind of amazing is now people feel super comfortable running their mouths, saying extremely hateful things, and hate has normalized in some way. Certain language has been normalized. And while we have someone like Trump who has led the efforts to normalize that type of speech, it's just really interesting to me to hear about comedians like Stephen Colbert who get criticized because they use some profanity or some uncomfortable language in their shows, right? First of all, he does a comedy show. Second of all, okay, so he used some sexual, imagery in order to make a point. Our president bragged about grabbing women by the genitals without consent. Like, the leader of this country is in favor of that kind of language. He's the one who led the efforts. Right? And we elected him. So just keep that in mind.
And finally, it's a great point, Anna. Like, they're worried about Colbert's dirty joke, but they're not worried about people who want to discriminate against whole groups of Americans.
Right.
And right wing, I got really bad news for you. Do you know what percentage Muslim Americans are? 100% American. They're not any less American than you. A citizen is a citizen. So if you don't like that, that's a super sad day for you. You're in the wrong country. There are countries that like to discriminate based on religion. Saudi Arabia, Iran. You'd feel right at home there. They're also right wingers. It's not your particular voodoo. It's a slightly different voodoo, but you'd be surprised at how much your voodoo agrees, actually. So why don't you take your ass over there? Because you apparently don't believe in the concept of America. So why don't you go to where you belong?
Exactly. All right, should we take another break?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to, don't we?
No?
No, we don't. No, we're going to go to the end here. Right.
Okay, awesome. So let's move on to the next story. 60 Minutes had an excellent piece recently regarding a man by the name of Roberto Beristain. He's a man that we talked about in the show before. He was a person who was in the country with undocumented status. He was not a U.S. citizen. However, he kept checking in with the government. They had given him some sort of temporary social security number, and he was making sure that he was following along with certain regulations so he wouldn't get deported. And then Trump gets elected, and sure enough, ICE deports him. Now, the part of the story that really stood out to people was the fact that everyone around him, including his wife, ended up voting for Trump, the same person who essentially got him deported. So 60 Minutes not only spoke to his wife about that, they also talked to a few of his friends. And I just love their reaction to it and some of their justifications for voting for someone like Donald Trump. Take a look.
I voted for him because he said he was going to get rid of the bad hombres. Roberto is a good hombre.
But actually,
Roberto Beristain's wife, Helen, who also works at the restaurant, was born in Greece and became a U.S. citizen 16 years ago. She met Roberto in 1998 at another restaurant in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
he was a busser and I was a server. He started talking to me a lot, and I tried to ignore him. He kept on talking to me, smiling and smiling and smiling. He always smiles. Very positive person.
They got married, had 3 kids, and settled into a comfortable suburban life.
Yeah. I don't think they realize, I'm positive they don't realize it, that saying he's one of the good ones is one of the most standard, stereotypical, bigoted, racist things you could ever say. Oh, no, most of the blacks are bad, but hey, Bob over there is one of the good ones. Oh, the Jews, they're terrible, but Steve over there is one of the good ones.
Right.
Right? So, and here we are in 2017. Oh, I'm voting for Trump because he's going to get rid of bad hombres, but, my friend Roberto, he's one of the good ones.
So this is in Indiana, right? And
even though I just gave him a southern accent.
Right. But anyway, I bring that up because we're not talking about Los Angeles or New York City. We're talking about a place where they are probably dealing with a little more propaganda that's anti-immigrant, especially anti-Mexican immigrant. And so they have bought into this idea that immigrant communities are dangerous, that people who come here, and have undocumented status are dangerous. They're breaking the law. And that's the type of propaganda that people hear in the media over and over and over again. You hear it on Fox News. You hear it all over. You read it on right-wing news outlets. And so people buy into that. And so even if they have an undocumented person in their lives that they love, that they know just came here for opportunity, they, for some reason, are not able to connect the two. They disconnect, or they compartmentalize certain components of their political ideology, right? And I think that it's so fascinating, right? And you don't hear about the studies that go into communities that are predominantly immigrant communities that show that crime is actually lower in those communities. Like, you don't see those stories often. You hear the fear mongering. You hear Trump talking about how he's going to publish, the lists of crimes that happen. And I don't know, it's frustrating because you have to work really, really hard to right those wrongs and reverse that propaganda. They've bought into that propaganda, even though they know someone that is going to be harmed by someone like Trump.
Yeah, but it's also conservative 101, which is that I don't care unless it affects me. And so I assume it's for those sanctuary cities with all those dangerous immigrants. But Roberto's my friend.
He's a good hombre.
Yeah. Oh, my God, it affected Roberto? Oh, okay. And then Kimberly Glowacki of Granger, Indiana, says to Anderson Cooper in this piece, it just feels wrong. Oh, it feels wrong when it happens to you, to someone you know.
But screw everyone else.
Yeah, when you thought it was happening to those scary Latinos somewhere else, well, then it felt great. That's why you voted for Trump. So own it. Yeah, you voted for the guy who, is wholesale discriminating against all of them, and he was never ever going to distinguish between bad hombres and good hombres, and that wasn't his point. And
yeah, you know what feels wrong to me? A country without Latinos. That feels wrong to me. But nonetheless, I know that those countries exist, and it's not because they're attempting to make it anti-Latino, but I like a country with Latinos. It's just a lot better. But anyway, let's move on to the second video, because it gives you a little more of an idea of what goes through their minds. It's fascinating.
On February 6, shortly after President Trump signed his new executive order, Roberto Beristain came here to an immigration office in Indianapolis for his annual check-in. Helen was in the parking lot waiting when an ICE officer came to let her know her husband would not be coming home.
He said, your husband is being detained because he is a fugitive. I said, my husband is a fugitive? My husband is not running from you. You did not come knock on my door to look for my husband. He came to you. Why this year he is a fugitive? What happened?
Roberto was doing everything he was supposed to do, so he was an easy target.
He wasn't hiding. He wasn't living in the shadows.
Right, and so they grabbed somebody who was following the rules.
Most of you voted for Donald Trump. He said he was going to do this. He's done this. Why are you surprised?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
And Matt Lillard said, but he worked his butt off to get here. Well, what do you think all the other undocumented immigrants did? And the way they make it sound, it makes it sound like Roberto's not undocumented. He was undocumented. That's exactly what Trump promised. That's exactly what you got. All right, guys, we're out of time, but we will be back for one more quick segment. I know that ending some of these segments at 5 o'clock seems a little abrupt. 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. On next Monday, you'll find out why. Lots of mysteries around here. Lots of mysteries.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Will Smith mystery, Danette's Unbreakable writes, I don't hate you, Anna Kasparian. Don't let the Fresh Prince get you down.
Aww. I really hope he doesn't hate us.
Okay, well, we're going to find out. Joy says, dragging that child is assault. Children that young can easily be injured, broken bones, dislocation, and sometimes permanently.
That's a great point. I mean,
yeah. And Mike says, is Trader Joe's really the place where you feel like that sort of diatribe would be well received?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you this about Trader Joe's. It is, it has a number one power ranking in my mind for a place I am most likely to get recognized.
Really?
Yes. I literally have not walked in. I think it's literal. I really do. I don't think I've walked into a Trader Joe's in 2 years and not been recognized every single time. I think once it was 5 times in one Trader Joe's.
Oh my God. Wow. That is amazing. I thought you were going to comment on number one power ranking for place to get snacks. Because they nail it with the snacks.
Oh, the dark chocolate peanut butter cup thing.
Those are good. Those are good.
It's mental.
But then
That's why I mainly go.
Real quick, and this is not an ad. I wish they were a sponsor, but they're not. They have these dark chocolate covered almonds, but the dark chocolate also has sea salt in it.
Correct.
Oh my God!
Second best thing at Trader Joe's.
It's so good. And then
correct.
And then Kirkland, which is the Costco brand, copied them, and they make this gigantic bag.
No, too big. No.
Oh,
Trader
not
Joe's
too
has
big.
it right.
You can never be too big. Okay,
Well,
when it comes to those.
I've heard that many times.
Anyway.
Oh, if I had a dime for every time I heard that.
Let's move on.
Anyways, much lib central, is my point.
Yeah.
So it is a little surprising. You're good point. All right, what's next?
All right. An Austrian appeals court has ruled that Facebook must delete so-called hate postings as well as any post that incites violence. Now, the case brought by Austria's Green Party over the insults to its leader has international ramifications, as the court ruled. The postings must be deleted across the platform, not just in Austria. So this is actually a really fascinating ruling, right? Because they're saying to Facebook, initially the court ruled, okay, Facebook must take these hate postings down. We are not going to allow trolls. We don't want it. But the ruling didn't specify whether or not Facebook would have to take it down for every country or just block it for Austria. And so they go back to court again, and the court rules, not good enough if it's just Austria. We want it down, period. It should affect every country.
I don't agree on so many different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, those are your rules in Austria. Those are not our rules in America. So why do we have to listen to your court? Sorry, no. Look, Facebook doesn't want to face the kind of fines that it could face, and let alone Austria. In Germany, the cabinet approved last month fines that could go up to 50 million euros. That's $55 million if they fail to remove such postings quickly enough. Jesus Christ!
So that's Germany, and now they're thinking about making this an EU-wide policy.
Yeah. So if you're Facebook, I mean, that's a gigantic fine. You don't have a choice. You're probably going to follow that. But as a matter of principle, I don't know why we have to follow European law, Austrian law. Okay, first of all, I don't agree with the Austrian law, so I don't need an analogy, but I'll do one on top anyway. Okay, what if Saudi Arabia said, okay, you have offended Islam with whatever the hell you said. Now you must remove that all across the world. Well, what the hell? All right, what if China said, okay, you have offended the Politburo and the communist regime of China. So Facebook, you must remove all postings all across the world that has offended me. Well, there's no end to this. Or no, we don't agree. We don't agree.
Yeah.
So, and I don't care if it's Saudi Arabia or China or Austria. We don't agree. So now in this case, the Green Party, I'm sure they're good folks that were offended, right? And it was a hateful comment by a right-wing group, and I'm sure I would, completely and utterly disagree with the posting, right? And I'm sure it's a terrible posting, whatever the hell it was, right? But we've all been, protected from it. So anyway, so what? That's the whole point of freedom of speech, is that you get to have, now look.
That's freedom of speech here, yeah. But
so I know Austria doesn't have the same laws as we do, right? They literally, they don't have the same First Amendment, obviously. They don't have the same Constitution. So they have different rules on speech there. That's why, if you want to make that ruling in Austria, I don't agree, but have at it, Horst. That's your country, not my country. As long as it just stays in Austria.
Right.
But you can't have it go worldwide.
Why does it have... I'm curious why it needs to impact every other country. I think it's because they're worried about, I don't know, maybe the perception that other countries might have of its leader, right? But who cares? Look, on some level, I kind of understand. I agree with you. I think that this goes way too far. But on some level, I do understand because, online trolls aren't just online trolls sometimes. Sometimes there are people who spread defamatory stuff about you that's just flat out untrue, that damages your reputation. We have to deal with it on a regular basis, and you have no way of protecting yourself, right? And that could have serious ramifications for, job prospects, business relationships, whatever it is. It could really negatively impact your life. And so what do you do in cases like that? So it's a hard question. I think it's a little harder than we're making it up.
No, Anna, look, so let me just be clear about this, okay? So if you break other laws, so for example, you threaten someone's life, you threaten someone's well-being, well, okay, that's your assault or whatever it might be, and every country has a law against that, and you want to take that down, or you give out their address and say, go get the head of the Green Party, this is where they live, you want to take that down globally. Everybody, I think, almost everybody agrees to that, right? If it's literally defamation and, the leader of the Green Party was a prostitute and here's where he worked and it's all made up and yada yada, there's a recourse for that, right? But if it's just something that offended you, because it was hateful speech towards you.
Right.
Then I say, no, then okay, you have different laws in Austria, but that we have, then it shouldn't apply to the rest of us, right? So now I think there's almost no one else in the world that's a better authority on this than I am, in the sense that I don't know that there are 10 people in the world that get more hate comments than we do, Anna, right? And so I guess Obama, right, back in the day.
Not just hate comments, though. It's also defamatory stuff. There's a lot of defamatory stuff out there, right?
So if you threaten violence, that has legal ramifications here in the U.S. as well. You can't do that. You can't do the doxing, you can't, etc. But every lie there is has been told about us. Our pictures photoshopped. I mean, every hateful comment, every racist, every bigoted comment, every sexual comment, everything has been said about us. And as long as it's not physical, we're still right here. Okay? And the reason they're attacking us is because they perceive us as powerful and strong and affecting people's opinions. And get real, you trolls out there, that's why you're doing it. If you thought somebody was irrelevant, you wouldn't even know them, and you wouldn't bother to attack them. Every time they attack us, it's a compliment. Saying, you're right, Young Turks, you are super powerful, and I have to try to fight you, okay? Agreed. Too strong, okay? No, so that's why I'm telling you, I think I have credibility here as a person who's been attacked maybe literally millions of times online, right?
Probably more.
Right?
Yeah.
To say, hey, if you're offended, it's not that big a deal. You don't get to control other people's speech because you were offended. You do if it's, again, defamation against the law, assault, etc. So I couldn't disagree more with this Austrian ruling, and I think they have no jurisdiction here. And I hope that Facebook fights their claim of international jurisdiction on all of us.
Right. All right, one final story for you guys. You want to do one more?
Yes.
Okay. The Anchorage, Alaska Police Department is fighting legislation that would ban any sexual contact that they could have with suspected prostitutes. Now, that sounds really bad on its own, but the Department Deputy Chief, Sean Case, tries to make the case that, hey, sometimes sexual touching is really important in a sting operation, right?
No, it's super important.
Right. So let me give you the details on what the argument is here, right?
Basically, it's saying, like, look, if I'm a cop in Alaska, I mean, how do you expect me to do my job without fondling some prostitutes? It's just not fair. It's not right.
It's just not fair, right?
You give them the details.
So in some very, very limited circumstances, the Anchorage Police Department wants to reserve the right for an undercover officer to have certain forms of sexual contact in the course of an investigation. So Case says the following. No, Case does not say the following. But here's what happens in some of these investigations. Prostitutes have used a technique known as cop checking to immediately identify officers and shut down an investigation. So, you know, the sex worker wants to prove that this person is not a cop, that they're not going to get in trouble, so they'll say, okay, then touch me, right? And Case lays out a hypothetical situation. I'm in an undercover investigation. They ask one simple question: touch my breast. Okay, I'm out of the car, done, and the case is over. If we make that act of touching a misdemeanor, we have absolutely no way of getting involved in that type of arrest. Absolutely no way of getting involved in that type of arrest seems like a strong statement. I don't know if I believe that. But more importantly, why are you wasting resources going after sex workers? Why? Right?
Yep.
Like, isn't it funny how the only form of prostitution that's legal in this country is political prostitution? Like, that's okay. But when you have two consenting adults exchanging money for sex, that's not okay. Right?
No, you know what they should use in a politician defense? They didn't pay me for sex. No, the money is speech.
Right.
They were just talking to me. And they were just talking to my breast, and then they were later talking to the rest of my body.
Yeah.
Because they just gave me money, and money's just speech.
Just speech. Now, in order to understand, you know, the way the laws work in Alaska, you need to know that it's not illegal for a cop to have sex, like full-on sex, with a suspected sex worker, right? The only time it's illegal is if a suspect is already in custody. And so this legislation, which was proposed by Democrats in the state, would have kind of changed or taken care of that loophole. But, there was so much pushback that Democrats were like, just leave it alone, right? We have other things to focus on. And, the cops are saying, no, we're not having sex with these suspects, okay? Just everybody relax. But there's really no evidence of that. Okay. Anyway, also keep in mind that this kind of stuff happens in other states as well. In fact, in Hawaii, it was legal for police to have sex with prostitutes as part of an investigation until 2014, after the loophole and the Honolulu Police Department's opposition to closing it became national news. Police dropped their objections to the change. So I guess they might have been a little embarrassed.
Look, how do you know that she's a prostitute until you've orgasmed? Okay, there's no way of knowing until you culminate. And in Alaska, they say, no, don't worry. The cops use this in, quote, very, very limited circumstances. Only when they're really, really horny. Okay? Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, anyway, I want them to focus on other things, not sting operations aimed at sex workers. They say that this is more about finding traffickers. And look, if you look at the arrest records, they're not lying. They haven't arrested very many sex workers anyway, as of late. So
There's like 13 people in Alaska. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, anyway, so I'm inclined to believe them on that. But I just think that loophole is weird. And I think a lot of authorities, they want shortcuts. They don't want to do the investigations. They want, the back door to encryption with cell phones because they don't want to do, any heavy lifting. You know what I'm saying?
No, because for a second when you said back door, I thought you were going to completely
No.
Is that also legal in Alaska?
I don't know. It's a strange place.
Yeah. No, look, until we went back door, we didn't know whether she would go back door. There was no other way of finding out.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not talking about anal sex. I'm specifically talking about, loopholes loopholes to encryption.
It's loopholes, all right. It's not another code word, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right. So, look, the final thing on this is that this is what putting a spotlight on issues does. I know it's kind of a goofy topic, but Michigan, until April, had the same thing. Cops had immunity for having sex with prostitutes. Isn't that convenient? It used to be in so many other states, and slowly people said, hey, really? Really? Cops need immunity to have sex with hookers?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case. And every time people put a spotlight on it, people are like, cops are finally at the end. In the beginning in Alaska, like she said, sex, that's I mean, we hardly ever do it. Okay. And then they're like, can we at least touch their breasts?
Right.
Okay.
There was a case a couple of years ago where one of the cops went to a massage parlor and got a 40-minute massage and then signaled to his, private region. And then she, touched his testicles, and that was when he, did some sort of signal to call the cops in. And
it's go time. I think you might have been able to deduce that before the 40 minutes. Okay, right. But anyway, clean up in aisle 5. So, okay, I'm going to need back up here. Officer now finally down. Okay, I think we've made enough dirty jokes here.
We're done.
Okay, so in the post game, is Will Smith still angry at us? And I ran into him on my travels. Another time I was asked to get off an American Airlines flight. Why was I on it in the first place? What was the reaction of the flight attendants? Why and what? How did I ever get back on? And yet another story of how painfully stupid Donald Trump is. So a lot in the post game. That's one of the privileges of membership. So come join us at tytnetwork.com/join. All right. Bye.